When the lawyer said, "You just inherited 1,300 acres of land," I laughed because I thought he was joking. But then he added one sentence that instantly changed my mood. He said, "There's an entire HOA community sitting on that land." That's when I realized this wasn't just good luck. This was about to turn into a serious fight with people who thought they owned something that was never actually theirs. Before I go any further, if you enjoy real stories where entitled people finally face consequences, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily. Trust me, this story only gets more intense as it goes on. This all started after my uncle passed away. He was a quiet man, very private, and lived far outside the city. He owned a lot of land, but he never talked about it. No social media, no bragging, nothing. I helped him out sometimes, checked on him, ran errands. I never expected him to leave me anything major. When the will was read, I found out he left everything to me, all 1,300 acres. At first, I was overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to begin. Then the lawyer explained that a large section of the land had been leased decades ago to a developer. That developer built a neighborhood, and over time, it turned into a full HOA community. Here's the key detail. They didn't own the land. They were leasing it, and that lease was now under my name. A few days later, I decided to visit the property for the first time. The moment I drove toward the neighborhood, I felt something was off. The entrance had a guarded gate, like a private resort. When I told the guard my name, he didn't smile, he didn't welcome me, he picked up the phone and made a call. I waited there for a good minute before the gate opened. As I drove in, people stared. Not curious stares. Suspicious ones? No waves, no friendly looks. It felt like I didn't belong, even though I technically owned the ground they were living on. I went straight to the clubhouse because I'd been told the HOA board was having a meeting. When I walked inside, the room went completely silent. Everyone stopped talking. A woman in her mid-50s, clearly in charge, looked annoyed that I had interrupted. She asked, "Can we help you?" I calmly said, "Yes, I'm the new landowner. I just wanted to introduce myself." A couple of people laughed. One guy actually said, "We own this place." That's when I took the documents out of my folder and placed them on the table. The lease, the property records, the legal transfer, everything. The woman picked up the papers, flipped through them, and her face slowly changed. She looked at me and said, "This must be a mistake." I said, "No, it isn't." The energy in that room shifted fast. The confidence disappeared. The meeting ended almost immediately. I was told their lawyer would contact me and that we'd sort this out. Over the next 2 weeks, my phone and email were flooded. Some messages were polite. Others were not. They told me the lease was outdated. They told me the community had invested too much money. One message even said I had a moral responsibility not to interfere. What bothered me wasn't the requests. It was the attitude. They spoke to me like I was supposed to obey them, like I should be grateful they were even talking to me. Then one day, I got a call that changed everything. A neighbor outside the HOA told me there was construction happening near the clubhouse. I drove out there and saw workers building an extension, heavy equipment, materials, active construction, on my land. I asked who approved it. One of the HOA board members looked at me and said the HOA approved it. That's when I realized this wasn't ignorance anymore. This was entitlement. That night, I sat down with my lawyer and went through the lease very carefully, page by page, line by line, and that's when we found something the HOA had ignored for years. A clause that changed everything. The clause we found in the lease was something the HOA had clearly ignored for decades. It was called a market rate adjustment clause. In simple terms, it meant that if the value of the land went up, the landowner had the legal right to update the rent to match current market value. No vote, no HOA approval, no negotiation required. And here's the part that shocked everyone. The land value hadn't just gone up a little. Over the last 20 years, it had more than tripled. My lawyer looked at me and said, "You can legally adjust the rent immediately." He also said something else that stuck with me. He said, "They've been treating you like the problem, but they're the ones who broke the agreement first." The next morning I sent out official notices, very clear, very professional, no emotion. just facts. The rent for the leased land was being adjusted to current market value, effective immediately. That meant the Hoey's rent was now 3 times higher than it had been the day before. I didn't announce it on social media. I didn't show up to confront anyone. I just followed the law. The reaction was instant. My phone started ringing nonstop. Emails flooded my inbox faster than I could read them. Some messages were angry. Some were desperate. Some were straight up begging. The same people who laughed at me in that meeting room were now asking for understanding. Within hours, the Hoey called an emergency meeting and demanded that I attend. This time, the tone of the invitation was very different. No confidence, no authority, just panic. When I walked into that meeting, the room felt heavy. People looked stressed. The Hoey president didn't even pretend to be annoyed this time. She went straight to the point and said I was destroying the community. I calmly explained that the rent hadn't been updated in decades and that the clause was legal and clearly written in the lease they had signed. Someone shouted that it was unfair. I responded by reminding them that they had started construction on my land without permission. That shut the room up real fast. They said homeowners would lose their houses, that families would suffer. I told them I wasn't evicting anyone. I was enforcing a contract. There's a difference. Then the threats started. Lawsuits, immediate attention, protests at the gate. I didn't raise my voice. I just told them they were free to try. The law was on my side. Over the next few weeks, reality hit them hard. Homeowners started asking questions. Board members started blaming each other. People realized the Hoey hadn't been honest with them about the lease situation. Trust started to fall apart. Some residents could afford the new rent and stayed quiet. Others couldn't and started planning to sell. The Hoey board, which once acted untouchable, suddenly looked weak. Then something interesting happened. The Hoey president resigned. She didn't make a big announcement, no email blast. She just quietly stepped down. 2 more board members followed her within days. The leadership that once acted like they owned everything was falling apart. A week later, I got a call I didn't expect. It was the former HOA president. Her voice was calm, almost tired. She asked if she could meet me privately. When she walked into my office, she looked nothing like the woman who once talked down to me in that clubhouse. No confidence, no power, just reality. She admitted that the board had convinced itself they owned the land because no one ever challenged them. She said they never thought the lease would actually be enforced. I listened. Then I told her something simple. I told her that rules only work when everyone follows them, including the people who think they're in charge. She didn't argue. But the story doesn't end there. Because what happened next changed the entire neighborhood in a way no one expected. After the Hoey president stepped down, everything changed fast. Without her controlling things, homeowners finally started talking to each other. They realized how much information the board had been hiding for years. Many people were angry, not at me, but at the OA that put them in this position. Some homeowners decided to sell and leave. Others stayed and worked with me to create a fair, transparent agreement. The new AOA board was smaller, quieter, and focused only on community matters, not power or control. The illegal construction was removed. Future projects now required written approval. Rent was paid on time, without arguments or threats. For the first time, the rules actually applied to everyone equally. A few months later, the neighborhood felt different. Calmer, more respectful. No more intimidation, no more pretending. If I learned one thing from all this, it's that entitlement only survives when no one pushes back. The moment you stand your ground calmly and legally, everything changes. If you enjoyed this story, drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in my place. Share this video with someone dealing with Hoey drama right now. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily for more real stories where entitlement meets reality.